Hello, Educators First community. Marie Kueny here with Compassionate Educators. And before we dive in, I have a question for you. What is resiliency? What is that? What does that mean? We use that term often in education. We want our students to be resilient. Maybe our administrators have even said that they want us to increase our resiliency. As we know, it has been a very challenging few years, but even before then, we saw a lot more coming through the pipeline, a lot more students who were facing big challenges, a lot of trauma. And so how do we support our students in becoming more resilient, and how do we find resiliency within? But before we do that, what does that even mean? What does that even mean? What is resilience? Let me know in the comments. What is resilience? Even if you're watching the replay, you can join in and let us know in the comments. So resiliency is the capacity to recover quickly from difficult situations, right? So this could be trauma, or it could just be a really tough situation that you are facing or that your students are experiencing. So if there is a way to increase the capacity for resiliency, is that something that would be important to you and to your students, right? So it's almost as if you have a very small cup, right? You have a very tiny cup and you want your favorite drink. Someone said, you can go to Starbucks, take this mug, you can fill it with whatever drink you want. For me, it would be a hot chai tea latte with almond milk. That would be mine. Okay? But they give you this little tiny cup. And you're like, thank you. What am I going to do with this tiny little cup, right? And if you really need some caffeine, that's not going to do a whole lot for you. Maybe a shot of espresso. But even then, right? You want a larger cup. You want to be able to fill more of that goodness into your cup. You need a larger size mug to put all that goodness in, right? So when it comes to resiliency, and let's think of our students first. Some of our students show up in the classrooms and they have these tiny little mugs, right? They have a little bit of resiliency, right? But it's so challenging and they don't know how to express their emotions appropriately, or they don't ask for help at the right time or the right place, or they're not sure even how to address their needs. And it seems like everything is just falling apart so quickly for them, and they don't know how to help themselves, right? So it's up to us as adults to help them build that resiliency, and for us to help them expand their cup so that they can feel more of that goodness in, right? Because when challenging things happen, right? Remember, if they have the little cup, challenging things happen, it overflows their cup, right? All of these difficult situations keep happening, maybe at home, right? At home, maybe they are responsible for waking up their little brothers and sisters. I've had many students like that. If you are a parent, you know that sometimes, even as an adult, trying to get the little ones ready for school is a big challenge. Now imagine being a fifth grader, right? Or even a high schooler, and being responsible for helping your younger siblings getting ready for school. That is a big challenge. And a tiny little cup, right? Pour. Overflows. There's a big mess. So how do we help them get those bigger mugs so that when there is a challenging situation, pour, it only fills up a little bit of the cup. They still have room for all that good hot chocolate, right? For those marshmallows on top, they still have space to recover. It's not just all negative. It's not just the hard stuff that they're dealing with. That's just a little fraction of it, right? So resiliency, when we speak about having that support, having them being able to bounce back quickly from difficult situations, we are expanding their resiliency cups. How do we do that? How do we do that? Do you know? There's one very, very key element to this that overcomes and that outweighs through many years of what I've seen personally in my experience and also research-based. If you are familiar with Dr. Bruce Perry, who is very heavily involved in trauma research and recovery, you might know. It is also an R word. It is also an R word. It is relationships. Relationships. So the more nurturing relationships a child has, the more they are able to expand their resiliency mug, right? The larger their capacity is for handling difficult situations. If the child does not have any meaningful, nurturing relationships, it's going to be so much more unlikely that they're going to have the support and the tools and the resources to be able to recover from difficult situations, to be able to overcome traumas in their lives. And, you know, I spoke of personal experience. If you are familiar with ACEs, I have a very high ACEs score. When I found out, this was maybe around like 2012, 2011, right around there. I was in the community as a social worker, and I went to a conference that was about supporting our children. And they spoke about, this is the first time I had heard of the ACEs, which is the Adverse Childhood Experiences, right? They had us take our own survey to see how many ACEs we had. My number was very, very high. And I could not understand, wow, if my score is an 8, how is it that I went on to not only get my master's degree, but I went on to own my own home, to have a loving relationship, to stop the cycle of abuse within my family. Sometimes we want to think that we are so special, which every one of you is very special, yet there's something that was able to stop that chain and to help me on my own path, and that I've seen so many others, both children and adults alike, make that shift and overcome not only difficult things, but traumatic experiences. And that is having loving relationships. And that is what I saw in my own life as well, is that those relationships, both with one of my caregivers, with my teachers, those relationships helped me to build my resiliency cup. And so I wasn't drowning in my experiences. They were part of my life, but it wasn't the only thing that filled my cup. So for your students, What can you do to offer that nurturing relationship? And it doesn't have to take a lot of time, but what can you do this week to help them see that you are there and that they do have a voice and that they do belong, that they are important, that they do matter, and that their life can be their choice, that they can create a life of their choosing. Okay, so I want you to consider that. And for yourself, if you are feeling that you need a greater mug for Starbucks, for your resiliency, consider who are the relationships that you have in your life. Do you have people that are there nurturing you and letting you know that you can absolutely achieve what you desire in your life as well, and that you are going to be okay, and that you are going to get through this? Do you have someone in your life who can do that? And if you don't have 2, 3, 4 people come to mind right away, you can always reach out to myself, to Mallory, to Anna. We are here to support you. And FYI, I'm not sure if I told you, but I do have a best-selling book that I contributed to that is just absolutely beautiful, full of stories of powerhouse women who have gone from surviving traumas to really thriving in life and in business. And so on Amazon or your favorite bookseller, check out Powerhouse Women, Survivor to Thriver. And I am in there and some other wonderful, wonderful women. If you want to hear a little bit more about my experience in my journey as a child and how I was able to overcome and to really build that resiliency and thrive, okay? But it really does come down to those relationships. So I hope that this was helpful. Let us know if there's anything that we can do to support you in building your relationships with your students, or if you need someone who can be there for you and lend you an ear. Okay? Bye for now.